I'm Trula, and been in the corporate world about 5 years now.
And I'm Lee with Supportive Guide, where we talk about being out as a witch in the corporate workplace. And I want to clarify from the beginning in some ways. If you're not familiar, or if this topic is like, wait, what? think of it as, and you can correct me if it's different for you. In some ways, we need to respect people's culture and space, whether that's a religious culture, whether that's a community culture, whether that's even part of your nationality. There's things that we can respect. And so if you're already coming into this, hearing what this topic is on red alert of like, why is this being spoken about? I want you to put that in your mindset first and be open-minded. And I'll pass it to you.
Yeah, to make a long story short, I have always been a practicing witch in some way, shape, or form. I joke that it is something that's been very much hand-me-down through my family. My great-grandmother was a kitchen/green witch, to put it mildly. And to clarify what that is, green witch means she was really good with planting. Kitchen witch means she's a really good cook. And all of her food was just really good at making people feel better. Period. That's what it was. I call myself an eclectic witch because I kind of dabble in a little bit of everything. With that being said, I have pretty much been in the witchcraft space, and I blame my aunt for this, since I was 7 years old. Actually, rephrase, 5 years old. I was 7 when she first showed me Practical Magic, which is celebrating its 25th anniversary the day we're recording this. So October 16th is the 25th anniversary of the film. So I've always kind of been raised in that headspace thanks to her. Dabbled in tarot and stuff during high school, fell out of it due to bullying, rediscovered it during COVID. So like going through all the toxic jobs and stuff, rediscovered myself and really started like hardcore diving back deep into it. And I was not out at the first toxic job. We weren't in the office, so I couldn't really be out at that point, I guess you could say. Fast forward to leaving that toxic job number 2, came in, was like, I refused to like let my space be invaded and stuff like that. So like I was immediately like selenite crystals everywhere, all these little like, crystals everywhere. Out, but not like verbally out to the world at that point. That
was confirmed, just visual.
Not confirmed, just bejeweled. To steal Taylor Swift's line, bejeweled. Then ended up where I am now. Decided that during that time, I also rebranded my blog, finally, to what it is now known as Magnolias and Crystals, Life of a Southern Witch. And that was my coming out. I was done. I'm not hiding in the broom closet anymore. I'm not teasing it on Instagram anymore. We're out. It's now official in the essence that all of the family gets the same Christmas cards, not just the Christian ones getting the Christian Christmas cards and then the ones who kind of know getting the other one. Everyone gets the same card. And it says Blessed Yuletide on it. Like, I'm straight up, this is my thing. I am here. I'm not going back into the closet easily. I'm out at work. I've carried a Book of Spells purse. I wear extremely witchy clothing. I'm in low grade witch today is what I'm going to say. I have my rings on, but like I'm low grade witch today because I'm in my like granny cardigan and everything. But like when I say high grade witch and I say corporate witch, I mean like we're wearing the shirts that say like witchy woman on them to work with like a blazer over it. I have a Practical Magic one that says my blood, your blood, that is from the show, of course. Wear it to work with my pencil skirts because graphic t-shirts with pencil skirts are really, really cute. And I'm out, just period. And no one treats me different.
And was there a space where before you were that you were afraid you were going to be treated different, or you had an experience where you were?
I've never necessarily, I want to say I've never felt like I was treated different. I felt that I was looked at different. It's not everyone gets it. Like, that's the thing. It's like not everyone understands why, and not everyone understands when you are in, and I want to be very clear. We've mentioned that I'm in Nashville. I am in the Bible Belt of the South. Like, we're lucky we have pagan pride in Nashville, but Nashville is in a Democrat county. Like, that's why we get away with it. That's why we can have it. bad to be a witch in the South. It's just hard. And so you do get the looks, especially when you really dress up witchy. I have a friend who has a Baphomet t-shirt with an upside down pentagram, and the looks we have gotten when going out, big. And I don't hide it necessarily. And I want to be very, very about that. I don't hide it. I know what circles I can run in where I can be fully loud and proud. And I know what circles I need to be like corporate granny witch, where I'm like, just the rings will do. And that's fine, because you also respective of the fact that not everyone wants me to be in their face about it. And I don't feel like I'm in their face about it, but like sometimes
Well, it's just
it
like
comes
any
off
other
that way.
religion or culture. There's a time and place to share, and there's time where it is in someone else's face, and that's not
Exactly.
appropriate.
Yeah. And so the biggest thing that really sparked it was last October, I bought a $5 black broom from the Target dollar spot area. Took it to work to put at my desk. And I did this in September. One of my coworkers, who's no longer with the company, she sat kind of diagonal across from me. So the way our desks are set up, we have like 2 rows of standing desks, 3 to 3. So she was at the far way from me one, but we were kind of diagonal from one another. And she was like, "Aren't you worried about what people will think?"
In September? Like, I know it's not October, but still?
Like, I mean, wasn't that. It's just that, I feel like she thought it was just a fad. But me being wearing all the witchy shirts, because I don't just wear them in October. I wear them all year round. Like,
Right, but the whole actual broom itself
yeah,
is a whole
but like
different.
it's a tiny broom. It's not a huge broom. It's a tiny broom. Like, it's not that big.
And if Target's selling it, it's decor that people who don't even understand what it's for is going to buy it anyways, too.
Exactly. And so I just had it at my desk, and I was like, well, I mean, I carry a book of spells purse. Like, how much more out do I need to be to you? And she just looked at me like, what? I'm like, have you not put it together? I'm a witch. Like, I'm not saying it as another term for the B word. I am a witch. I have a practice.
So, what do you think people will think about you? Well, that you're a witch?
I mean, I don't care at this point. I've given up caring what people think
Right.
of it at this point. My thing is, it plays into how I function with everyone else. It really does. Like, I know when I'm low energy and I don't need to like be on the floor talking to people. I won't visit with people. Those are the days that, like, as I put it, I'll do my glamour magic, which is, for anyone who's not a witch and doesn't know this, glamour magic is like putting your makeup on just to make you feel better. Like, that's your thing. That's your shield to the world of like, I am willing to be approached today. I don't need that anymore at work because I don't have that issue anymore. Like, people kind of can read my temperament now that I've been there almost 2 years, and they know like, hey, Trula kind of came in like a little low energy. Don't go bug her. Teams her if you need to, but like, don't go bug her at her desk. I do my teas at work. Like, I drink tea, and I have a very specific way of how I stir it in the mornings. And it does get looks sometimes because I'm standing over there like muttering to myself, today is going to be a really productive day. We're going to have a positive energy and a positive outlook on life, stirring it clockwise to draw that in, stirring it counterclockwise and saying like, hey, no negative energies. We're not going to have negative thoughts today. We're going to be, kind to ourselves and stuff like that. And then I go and drink my tea. So I'm standing in this kitchen, like muttering to myself these things. And people just, it's like, oh, that's Trula. She's just doing her daily affirmations.
Right. That's what it sounds like. And so far, what I've heard, and I have a whole different perspective, and I'm trying to think on the outside of this. What I hear also is you're doing some normal stuff that other people do as well that are more aligned specifically with you being a witch. But oh my goodness, it's actually pretty normal.
Yeah.
You're saying affirmations. You're saying, like, you're talking about your aunt being able to be a good cook and great with plants. Like,
yeah.
So some people might be, what is the difference?
The difference is that, and I want to be very clear on this, the difference is how you manifest the energy into it. I feel like, at least that's my outlook on it. I want to be very clear.
Like intentionality between
yes,
it.
Every witch is different. Every witch looks at it differently. Some people don't even call themselves witches. I just happen to coin that term more than I like other terms. Some people choose practitioners. Some people just choose that it is their spiritual practice. Like, it's different. But the whole thing is that when you're doing those mantras, you're putting an intention behind it. The way that I'm doing it is I'm just stirring that intention into something that I am going to drink. So that every time I drink that, I'm going to be reminded of those intentions that I was speaking over it that morning.
And what beyond this, what I find fascinating behind it under a scientific lens, like I don't have it specific. Maybe I'll link it at some point for someone. But there is a study where if you were speaking positively to plants, if you speak positively to water, their chemical change from a very molecular level is noticeable when compared. At a scientific level, they can tell the difference between how you were treating water or a plant positively or negatively.
Yep.
And then if we're consuming that, and it boggles my mind, we are either consuming that positivity back or that negativity back.
Best pop culture reference for this would be Ghostbusters 2 with the slime and making the toaster dance. Like, if anyone wanted a good picture of what the idea behind it is, there you go. The slime bubbling when it's being screamed at and being treated horribly, and then you put higher love on and it just starts dancing across the pool table. Mm-hmm. Like, that's the best way to describe it. But like, everyone, like I said, I want to be very clear. Everyone's practice is very different. Not everyone is out of the broom closet due to reasons. I am out of the broom closet. My mother is aware that I'm out of the broom closet. We just don't talk about it. We have an unspoken agreement. We just don't talk about it. And that's fine. But in the corporate world, it's difficult. And I'm not bashing the LGBTQ community, because I want to be very clear. It is not the same as their struggle. Their struggle is so much harder in so many aspects. And I also know this because I am part of the LGBTQIA community, because I am bisexual. And so, like, I'm not out at work on that. I feel more comfortable being out being a witch than I am being part of the LGBTQIA community. Like, that is something that speaks volumes, I think, in a way.
I'm relating in a whole different other sense. So I'm also queer.
Yeah.
And I'm going back to one of my first jobs in my early 20s. It's a highly religious workplace. And I would say this because in this work field, it's appropriate to put religion in it. And I'm also being very careful because I know people may put two and two together. So I'm not saying what kind of work environment it is. But I did not feel comfortable being queer. I did not feel comfortable showing my tattoo, which I do have pentagram right on my wrist, which is hard to cover up unless you're constantly wearing long sleeves or figuring out other ways to do it. I did not feel comfortable. Now, one day, I'm sitting there and my boss comes in the room and my sleeve just flips a little bit and she can see it. And she told me to cover it up. Next thing you know, in our employee handbook, we can't have tattoos anymore. Like, it's now been added instantly because of that. I will say it was also not comfortable being queer as well. It's like, it was in many ways in that workplace, and constantly had to hear from people. Like, most of the employees went to the same church.
Yeah.
And including the pastor's daughter worked there. And they would talk about how they convert people and all this other toxicity around the LGBT community. Neither felt safe being out. It was very extreme. And I think that harmed me for many different workplaces for the longest time, being comfortable being who I am. And at one point, I'm like, I'm not going to cover up my tattoos when I don't want to cover them up. I'm not going to wear long sleeves when it's hot outside. Like, I would wear wristbands too, but I'm not going to go this extra mile to make other people comfortable when I'm not doing anything to invade their personal space.
Exactly.
Instead, I'm letting them invade mine.
And that's kind of how it is. Like, I mean, that's the best way to put it, is that, and it's not that I don't feel comfortable being out as an LGBTQIA community member at work. My manager is a lesbian. I love her. Her fiance is absolutely the sweetest person in the whole entire world. I freaking love her as well. We have many members. It's just that our company really tries to straddle the line when it comes to the community. So, like, it's not that you're not supported. It's not that you're not supported. It's just the support is very limited. I want to be very clear on that. I think the reason that I feel more comfortable being out as a witch in corporate with this is that the only Christian holiday we get off is Christmas. It's the only holiday that is Christian that we get off. We don't get off for Easter. We don't get off for, I think that's the only other one I can think of. Like we don't get off for Passover because that's part of the Catholic faith. We don't get any of that off. It is strictly just Christmas. And we get 3 floating holidays, which I rarely use. I use them differently than probably what they expect. But like, if I tell, hey, I'm taking off Halloween week, she's like, oh, Samhain, right? I'm like, yeah. Like, it's the aspect of we don't have a religious thing going on at work. So like, there's no pressure to feel like we have to conform to a specific religion.
And the fact that you have floating holidays, not just one, because I've worked in many places that have one floating holiday. You have 3.
Yes.
Which there's some cultures who have more holidays that last longer than 3 days.
Yes.
But the fact that you even have 3 is unheard of in most ways.
But
it should be used because many people celebrate different religions. There's plenty of people who don't celebrate Christmas, but might celebrate Hanukkah, or like I think there's 20 different holidays in December that are regularly celebrated by American. They only recognize one. Yeah.
Yeah. And so like I'm very thankful that they only recognize that one, and I understand kind of why they do, because it backs up against New Year's and it just kind of gives them an excuse to almost give us like a full week off of work. Like that I can understand. And
the fact that there's so many corporations that already follow it.
Yeah.
It's almost like it'd be a dead week for people to work anyways in some ways.
It's a dead week. I mean, literally, I've been told not to go into the office before. Last year, I got told, don't go to the office. Like, work from home all week. Like, literally, that's what I was told. And I love that. But it's also like said, we're very blessed. But we also get like 150 vacation hours when we first start. We don't have to accrue that. Now, our system says it's accruing, but like we have 150 hours that even if like you haven't accrued that much by like say February, you can still take a 40-hour week off, whether or not you've accrued it in our clock-in system or not.
It's probably accrued because in a previous episode you were talking about how you can carry over 20 hours.
Yeah.
They have to probably have some sort of way of being able to track that part. Yeah.
And that's really all it is it's just a tracking situation.
So you can be negative as long as it balances out in the end.
Yeah, as long as it balances out in the end, you can be in the negative, which is totally fabulous. And I have not once had an issue with it. I absolutely love it. And it's like, and I'm pretty blessed that sometimes I get really lucky and one of the Wheel of the Year dates will land on a day when I'm working from home. So I don't necessarily have to like take off, but like I do little things throughout the day to like celebrate. So like, for instance, Bridget's Day happened to fall on a Wednesday this year. For those that are not practitioners, that is technically the witch's spring equinox. I think that's what we kind of use as our spring cleaning at this point. I will clean the oven that day. Like that's my little thing because I don't like cleaning the oven. So like I have it set for a specific day, I can get it done. A lot of the Sabbaths typically fall sometimes midday week. It happens. If I don't want to take off, I celebrate earlier in the week or I celebrate later in the week. Like that's just me. I don't have to take off for everything. I just take off for Samhain because that's our New Year's. Like, look, I want the candy too. Like it's special. And then I always take the day off after to like put my tree up because as you can see in Lee's video, you can very blatantly see the Christmas card. Yeah.
If you don't see Catherine walk by, there's actually Catherine. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. But we do photos every year now. This year I took my photo out in Arizona, but I have to get Catherine's photo done in front of our tree. So it will still go up on November 1st, as it always does. And I will decorate it. I figured
you might be since I saw someone else's post talking about it was going to be their cards.
Yeah. Like I have to, get that done so that I can get her on the card because she's always part of the card. Like I have family that are so sweet. They include her on the envelope every year. Like literally they put Trula and Catherine. I'm like, that is so sweet. Like I'm grateful that you acknowledge that she's basically my kid. But it's a thing. And like having, again, it goes back to the support from my team that like, hey, I'm taking Halloween off so that I can celebrate my New Year's. They're like, that's fine. Enjoy. Like, we'll see you when you come back. And it's nothing. Like, I spend the 12 days of Yule that starts on December 21st, which is, of course, our winter solstice. And we go for 12 days. And I literally am one of these that, like, I am cheery all freaking 12 days. Like, I'm so excited to celebrate this. Like, come in, I am fully, like, decked out in, like, holiday colors. And it's like, they're like, you're too much sometimes. And I'm like, so? Is it getting in your way of things? No. So we just have that understanding. But like, I know people who are corporate witches and they're not out. They're not broom closet.
I would say it's probably not common common professional setting, especially in corporate world, to be anything but the
straight, cis, and white. And
Christian.
Like, that's just how it is. And it's understandable. Like, I'm also going to be honest. Corporate is a good old boys country. Like, you can't tell me I'm wrong. It's a good old boys country. That is where corporate lands.
It's also run by older generations. It still is.
Yep. And I'm very adamant. I'm like, if you don't like it, I'm sorry. Just ignore it. Don't come over to my desk. Don't talk to me. Don't look at me. That's how I've kind of gotten to the point of, it's like, I'm not going to water myself down, just because you're uncomfortable. I water myself down because corporate America expects a certain level of professionality. And obviously, if we have like guests coming into the office that we're aware of, I don't wear the witchy shirts. Now, I'm not going to change the way my desk looks because there's crystals and Funko Pops. I literally have a Sabrina the Teenage Witch Funko Pop at the office with her little like familiar Salem. Those aren't going anywhere. I will leave the crystals. I will do all that. But like, I will at least take a level of, if we are having visitors in the office, not to be more witchy than what I normally am. Like, I won't go crazy. I might not wear a graphic t-shirt that day, but I'll probably wear like my power colors, essentially, is what I call it. Like browns and burgundies and greens and burnt oranges and stuff like that. But I won't be overt. And that's watering it down so that we don't lose a business deal, which is understandable.
I would say in some ways it's also goes back into, you're not necessarily trying to put it in someone's face. It's about you.
Yeah.
And when it's not about you, it doesn't need to be.
Yeah.
Like, you being able to be comfortable to be yourself in a workplace is different than, hey, now we have to meet external clients or a partner or whatnot. Like, that's not knowing your audience and when it's appropriate. Doesn't mean you're hiding yourself, but also someone who's, if you want to say Christian, it's like, it'd be as if you're not going to be having a million different crosses on you at some point walking into this meeting. Like,
exactly.
You'll have one that maybe will be for you, but it's not being so overt in that moment.
But it's like, we also have a really good, and it's like the tattoo policy kind of like made me think. I was like, what is our tattoo policy? We don't really have one. Like, there's nothing, like I said, previous episode, it's very much boomer Gen X created company, but they have a millennial Gen Z mindset. So like, we don't have to stay off. We don't have to put our phones away during the day and stuff like that. We don't have to have our tattoos really covered up. Like, one of mine is always visible if I'm wearing short sleeves, which is the Death's Head moth. But like, if I'm wearing a sleeveless top or something like that, my witch one is there. She is loud. She is proud. She's out for me, as I put it. And honestly, looking at getting another one that is very witchy for my right arm. So it's like, it's I can't to the point, and it's like, I joked I want a t-shirt that says "out of the broom closet," because I literally still have people, some people like come into work and stuff like that, and they just kind of look and they're like, what? I'm like, yes, I'm out of the broom closet. Please don't ask the questions. I'm so sick of answering them at this point.
And I want to say, like, if you think you're in a field where you can't be out, that's also always a personal decision, regardless of what it is.
Yes.
But there's almost any environment can be more accepting of people and who they are. Like, I've worked with young children, and my first fear was, what are kids going to ask me about my tattoos?
Yes.
And what am I going to say that's respectable? Because knowing if I'm working with kids, their families can be very diverse, and I'm not trying to impose on them. And so when it's pointed out my tattoo, I will say, for me, this represents balance. If they said something like, my parents taught me this evil, I go, they may believe that. For me, this is balance.
Yep.
And I reference, this is for me. And that's the most important part of it, because it's not for them. And I'm not trying to educate them on that. I'm not trying to indoctrinate them in whatever I believe. This is for me, and it's positive for me. And I'm not going to try to change a child's opinion when I'm working with, you don't do that with families. That's a whole different, you can educate tolerance, you can educate acceptance, you can educate on being respectful to other people. And for them, it was like, I hear that you are judging me for this in some way, but I'm going to reiterate, it's not me even caring about your judgment. For me, it's positive. And for me, it's balance. And that's as simple as I can put it for you.
Yep. I mean,
and kids don't actually ask it that often, to tell you the truth.
Yeah. They're just like, oh, cool, it's a tattoo. Can I color it in? My niece actually did ask that when I went to her birthday party. She saw the witch on my shoulder. She's like, can I color it in? Like, we had color markers. I would totally let you do that. But like, I've even had coworkers, like one of my coworkers found out I was a witch and she caught me reading my manager's cards one day. I don't read for a lot of people. I want to be very clear about that. Tarot is my personal practice. I will read for some people, not everyone. I have to feel comfortable enough to read for you. She was like, will you read my cards for me? And I'm like, sure. Like, I didn't feel pressured or anything like that. She was very adamant. Like, you can say no if you want to. Like, she was not pressuring me. It's like, sure, I'll read your cards. We have a good, like, working relationship. I feel comfortable enough to do this that you're not going to judge me. And she asked me one day about the crystals at my desk. And she's like, well, what do each of them mean? I'm like, well, you're going to have to be specific about which one you're asking about. She's like, well, I saw the little white tower. And I was like, well, I have two of those. Those are selenite. And they are self-cleansing and they cleanse negative energies out of my space. And she's like, that's cool. Well, what about the little black ones? I have a giant hematite and then a tiny hematite at my desk. For those that y'all don't know, those are really good for like RA, like the waves that come off our computer screens and stuff like that. I have a big piece and a little piece because I work on 3 screens. Well, 2 screens. One's really big, one's small. I call it 3 screens. And so I keep those over there to do that because I get headaches really easily from like between the fluorescent lights in the building plus the blue light coming from the screens. I get headaches from that. And I know that. And so typically I wear blue light glasses when I'm on the office, but those also help with that. And she was like, where would you start if you were like recommending to a beginner? Like if you were starting all over again, I said, if you're wanting something that can kind of be universal, go get yourself a quartz crystal. Classic, clear quartz crystal. They're programmable to do anything you could want. Just you set the intention with that crystal of what you want it to do. She's like, I'm going to have to do that. I never once, as I put it, proselytized or anything. She came to me wanting the knowledge, and that's fine. And that's how I feel about it, is that that's why I'm not in everyone's face. It's like, it's not for everyone. Not everyone wants to ask questions about it. Not everyone wants to know how it goes. It's just, they'll come and ask the questions if they want to ask the questions. And at some point you get sick of it.
And let's bend to other cultures and other religions too. Like, what, beyond this, what advice would you give someone who is trying to hide who they are, but wants to show that piece and they're afraid of that next step?
Start small. Like, that's the best way to do it. Is I started really small by doing the crystals in my cubicle at the second toxic job and stuff like that. Just starting small. Like, if you're scared to test the waters, that's the best way to do it. Just start small. Like, start bringing in little things. Start doing little things that like are related to your religion or your culture or whatever. Just tiny. All it takes is one step. Once you've taken that one step, it becomes a whole lot easier to take that next step.
Because there is a level of privilege of being in a place where you just feel comfortable doing that.
And there is. Mm-hmm. That if you're not sure if you can be comfortable to do it, that's where the baby steps come in. Like, we are, I say we're an office of all nationalities. We have Islamic in the office, I believe, Indian. And I do not mean indigenous Indian. I mean like from India, Indian. We've got Brits in the office. We've got Scots in the office. We've got, pretty sure she's Australian. Like,
so you have a lot of different cultural backgrounds, probably religious differences as well. So you are not alone there. And
No.
most people aren't alone in having those differences. It's just being able to share something that's not a cishet white
Yeah.
male corporate Christian world.
And it's you have that space or finding those people you can have those conversations with. And that was one of the biggest things that I always tell her. It's like if she's going through something, I always say, I'm sending you good vibes. I'm sending you all the good energies and the loving energy. And, she says, I will say a prayer for you. I don't knock it. I'm like, I will take whatever good intentions you want to send my way. You do not have
I
to.
feel the same way about prayers. Yeah.
You
Positive
don't have.
intention, still positive.
It's still positive. It's still good. It is still someone being in your corner cheering you on in some form or fashion. And it is the biggest thing that I've taken away from working at this job is that I don't have to water myself down for people. I water down to the level that I have to because, of course, I work in corporate. I know there are boundaries there that are unspoken that I have to respect. But like I joked with coworkers. I'm like, I don't know how much more out of the broom closet I can be. Like I literally carry a bag that says Book of Spells on it to work. I literally like wear all the witchy jewelry. I wear all shirts, and I'm like, I don't, without just blatantly like writing a newsletter to the company and saying, well, I'm a witch. Like literally pulling a Sally from Practical Magic and saying, well, all the rumors are true. I'm a witch. Like that. And at that point, that feels like proselytizing. And I'm not that person. It's like, if people ask me questions about it, yes. Do I still post about witchcraft on my blog when I blog? Yes.
And see, it's not even about like you having to proselytize it. It's about being able to be yourself and not have to hide it.
Exactly. And so I'm
like, you're not saying I have to tell you about it. It's more like I don't have to hide myself about it around you.
Exactly. And that's the thing, is that having people that you work with that you can do that with is it changes the game. But if you're not sure if you're in a space where you can do that, baby steps it. If you want to start eating more of your culture's foods in the office, take in the stinkiest thing. Once you've done that once, you're good. Like I'm going to be do that because like we order from all different types of food cultures at my office. Like we have Indian, we do Thai, we do any type of Asian cuisine you can think of. Like I think we actually eat more cultures outside of America than we do American food at my office.
So I would say like potlucks, you're probably expecting literally a whole potluck, not just all the same side dishes.
Oh yeah, none of the same side dishes. No. Like literally we did a bake off for Christmas last year, and literally someone brought in not Turkish delight, maybe it was baklava. Someone made baklava for this thing.
Oh, and that's tedious to make.
And it is tedious. I know it because I've tried and I suck at making it, and I will probably never master it. But like someone brought baklava, and that's a big thing. Like I'm serious.
If you're sharing a piece of your food, you're sharing a piece of your culture.
Exactly. And I think it's so cool to see like how we all join and melt in the pot together. And, sometimes, and I'm going to be brutally honest, sometimes your culture can give you a different way of looking things business wise. And that is something that's not talked about enough. But like it can be. It push that envelope of like saying, well, hey, if you're wanting to appeal to these customers, you're going to need to go in this route because you are one of those customers.
Right. Representation does matter in that.
Yep. And we have, like I said, we have a range of representation in the office. Like I said, it is, I thought I thought I was woke. I am more woke now that I'm working at this company because it is so different to be around people that are like, oh, you're a witch. Cool. I'm this. Like, it's neat. And it's like, people sometimes ask me, it's like, well, hey, if I have a witchy friend, can you help me come up with a gift idea? I'm like, well, tell me about them. Cause like, not everyone's
That's very personal on that.
Yeah.
That's even more personal then. Yes.
Yeah. That's a bit more personal at that point, but I'm like, if you want help, I can make recommendations of what stores to go to. But like, if you're gonna be like getting something for someone, I'm gonna be very brutally honest. It's very dependent on their personalities, and
especially since everything's with intention.
Oh, yeah.
Everything is with intention.
Everything in witchcraft is intentional.
Mhm.
And that's the thing is like, I don't buy a random tarot deck just because I think it's pretty anymore. Like, if I'm not called to something about it to specifically work with my work, I'm not buying it.
There's people who won't even buy it. They only believe in getting it gifted.
Exactly. Like,
Mhm.
everyone's different. And
So gifts are huge when
yes.
it's intention.
Yes. And that's the other thing is that I feel that, you know, I just feel more grounded also because of it. Because, like, it's not weird if I want to take my shoes off and walk around the office barefoot. I don't do it on the tile, but I do it on our carpeted areas. It's like grounding myself. I'm just, you know, I'm as close to the earth as possible and I can't go outside and do it right now. So, like, this is my way of doing that. I work barefoot a lot in the office. Like, I wear slip-ons on purpose to like take my shoes off and just be able to do the grounding method that I do. And it's easy. I say it's easy. It's not really easy. Just being out is a different feel
Would you
than
say it's easier just because of the actual already company dynamic?
yeah, it's easier based on the dynamic, definitely. Just because it may not be everyone's cup of tea, but they're not gonna like crucify me on a cross for it.
And like bringing it to another episode, like having those intentional meetings where people are getting to know who you are. If you can't actually be out about who you are, if it's a huge fundamental part of your life, those meetings aren't authentic.
Nope.
And it's
And
really
I would
hard to build those connections and relationships where you can actually collaborate and work productive with each other.
exactly. And I will tell you, the person that was in the position in February before they were let go, I couldn't do it. Like, I could not be out around them. I still carried the purse every day. I was out as far as like company went, but I was not out to them in the fact that I have confirmed that I am a practicing witch.
And it makes sense. Like your supervisor, leadership in general, the tone of a company, if they want their employees to be authentic, if they want them to actually be able to build a really good team that's not just surface level, you have to make them feel comfortable being themselves.
And that's the biggest thing that I've taken away from everything is that go with your gut. That's my piece of advice right there. Go with your gut. I have trusted my gut the whole entire time I've been with this company, and I regret none of it. The first interview I had with my SVP, Catherine, came out. She had not come out for any other part of that interview until we were talking. And then she was sitting there next to me wanting to be pet the whole entire time. She doesn't just like anyone. I want to be very clear about that. She is very, very temperamental. We had our interview with our new AVP, and Catherine did the same thing. I felt very peaceful, as I put it. Like, there was just that gut instinct of like a sigh of relief. And I have not been wrong since.
And
Like,
I would say anybody who's in the position where they do have that gut feeling where they don't have that relief and you feel stuck, you feel like you're in survival mode. And I'm saying this because I've had plenty of commenters lately, like, I can't follow your advice, is what they tell me.
yeah.
And I get that. And I hope one day you know what to look for so you can. You can get out of those toxic situations. You can hold those boundaries better. You can be yourself. I hope just hearing some of this stuff gives you the stepping stone that one day, if it can't be today, I understand. One day you can be yourself.
Yeah.
And be supported.
And that's the main goal of it all is that you want somewhere that maybe you don't spend your whole entire life in that job, but like you're comfortable. You feel as I posted it on Instagram the other day, and it's a song that's kind of been resonating. It's been on a lot of playlists, and now it's like resonating more since I went on my trip and I've started this process of a glow up rebrand situation just to kind of get myself back in good habits. It's called Back in My Body by Maggie Rogers, I believe. And if you don't feel like you don't feel like you're back in yourself and you're the self that you want to be, that's okay right now. Like, you have you're valid in that feeling, but can't stay there because that hinders your growth. And so, you know, I'm the first person. I'm independent. I would try to find jobs on my own. I would have never found this job on my own. Recruiters are not the enemy. Some recruiters are, if they're bad recruiting firms. But when you find you a good recruiter, stick with them because they're going to take care of you. Like literally. Like I can't sing my recruiter's praises enough. Like she's freaking amazing. We're still friends. She gets a Christmas card every year.
I think that is, if you can work with a recruiter, they can do most of the work for you. So if you don't have, I think that's what I hear from people. They don't have time to look for a different job. They don't have the capacity to do the applications. You can get a recruiter that will do most of the work for you.
They'll even fluff your resume.
And depending on if you have some sort of disability, there's actually more recruitment companies that will work with you with DVR, like vocational rehab. Like they will connect you specifically because of that. And they know how to work with you. So if you feel you're stuck because I can't see well, because I can't hear, like if you feel like your disability gets in the way of you getting jobs, get a recruiter to work for you.
I'm the biggest advocate for recruiters after I've seen what it's done. And I want to say this much. Ashley has placed 7 people at the company that I work for. Of those 7 that I am aware of, I was number 7. None of us have left.
And recruiters are going to be very aware of what companies are good and what aren't so much, where the high turnover is.
Yep. And I honestly can also tell y'all a fun tidbit. I'm part of the reason why the recruitment company that she works for is no longer recruiting for one of my toxic jobs.
Yes. Like give the feedback to those recruiters.
It's the biggest thing. And like I said, I will advocate for anyone. Like I want everyone to have their due diligence. Being out is amazing. I think it boosts your confidence and everything like that. So like being out as a corporate witch has actually helped amplify that because one of my biggest things is I like to help people. So being able to be out, if that helps someone, I've done my job. That's how I feel.
And if you can't be out, what can you do today to still feel like you're you?
Exactly. Like if you can't be out, find something that's going to give you that ability to feel like you're out.
Like replenish that cup somehow.
Yeah.
Nourish yourself.
And it's going to look different for everyone. Everyone's replenishment of a cup is going to look different.
That could be finding a community that agrees with you, or it could be doing something at home because you're more of an introvert and just need to be able to read and watch your movies, or do something that connects you back to what makes you feel like you.
Gonna be honest, my best advice on that one, I come home, I'll fix me a nice little comfort food like fried chicken and mashed potatoes or something like that. I sit down, I eat, I'll read a book, or I might go sit out on the porch and meditate. Do something in my spiritual practice that like works for me to help me ground. I've started picking up drumming this year because I have Celtic heritage, but I also have Indigenous heritage. I'm Cherokee and Cheek, 5 times great grandmother on my mom's side of the family, both of her sides. And I was called, a very lovely friend of mine that lives here in Nashville does drum circles and stuff like that. And I saw one that had the Driscoll on it, which is, it's not the triquatra, but it's very similar to it. But I picked that one as my drum because it both honors my Indigenous heritage, but it also honors my Celtic heritage at the same time. And so I use it a lot. Like if I've got anxiety going on or something like that, I'll just sit, crisscross applesauce on the floor, or I'll go outside on the porch and do it. And I just drum. Whatever beat wants to come out of my body, I just do that. And sometimes you just need to go touch grass, people. Touching grass is like Catherine's favorite thing.
Connecting yourself with nature, regardless of what your background is, and just be the scenery change you need, period.
Exactly. And you'd be surprised. Once I'm a firm believer, no one should have to be in the broom closet or any closet for that matter. Let's be very clear on that. That's applicable to culture. That is applicable to your sexual identity. That is anything. I understand that at times it's necessary and it sucks. Big time sucks. And when you find that place that lets you be you, it's worth fighting for. I want to say that you're on the verge of, I want to give up and stop fighting for it. It's worth it. It's worth every little bit of fighting. It's worth every little bit of argument. Trust me.
That's a wrap for our first season. We'll have a new season for you in the new year. See you then.